Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of All Things Pop Culture. This is your host, Scott Leffler, and today Factholic brings you a list of 10 of the largest SCP monsters, creatures, entities, and objects. But before we proceed any further, to give a gist to all the folks here who aren't familiar with SCPs, SCP stands for Secure, Contain, and Protect. Imagine a world similar to ours, even call it a parallel dimension or universe, where anomalies live, subsist, and prevail. This is a world, or rather a universe, where the so-called SCPs and SCP Foundation exists. Number 10. SCP-1128 Aquatic Horror, 6 miles. So, starting things off, we have a creature whose true appearance and origins are pretty unclear. Yet it's said to mostly resemble a gigantic shark. More popularly known as the Aquatic Horror, this bad boy, a Euclid-class SCP, is documented by the SCP Foundation. An interesting feature about this entity is that the sea monster only manifests itself to those who know of it, and it can attack subjects who are immersed in nearly any amount of water. Now, what that means is that the Aquatic Horror can possibly shapeshift and teleport at the same time. Also, this sea monster may be the smallest of the bunch out here, but I can't stress this enough. The size figures are literally off the charts with these skips. Being a monstrous, aquatic sea creature, this SCP does not communicate in any way and only shows an interest in brutally attacking others, as well as feeding. Number 9. SCP-722 Yorman gander, 7.45 miles. The next entity in our list is most likely the actual Yorman gander from Norse mythology. Yeah, I'm talking about the mythical Jotun serpent designed to fight Thor come Ragnarok, and popularly known as the World Serpent. The Yorman gander is a terrestrial snake by nature and sports an incredible size, length, and even girth. This massive serpent lies dormant in a prolonged sleep state, coiled through a series of tunnels of unknown origin. Number 8. SCP-3700-2, aka Angie, about 20 miles. Next up, we have a creature that resembles an eel, but it's a colossal one at that. Angie's also pretty bizarre. That is, if you consider the 13 octopus-like tentacles around the middle region of its body. Apart from that, this SCP has black coloring and bioluminescent lines resembling a man's face on either side of its chest. The majority of its length is composed of a whip-like tail ending in a sharpened point, with the widest point of the entity being approximately 1 kilometer from top to bottom. Man, that's absolutely bonkers. Also, each of its tentacles is estimated to be approximately 60 meters in length, and mouth is estimated to reach 3 kilometers in length when open. That's enough to swallow 6 sea-wise giants, the longest ship in the world in just a gulp. Number 7. SCP-1548 The Star, the Hateful, 22 miles. The Hateful Star is indeed hateful, just as its name suggests. In fact, this sentient, star-like entity devotes a strong hatred for all life forms, and at present it's currently moving towards the solar system to destroy the Earth. Yay! Being sentient as well as omniscient, SCP-1548-EX knows almost everything about humanity, the Foundation, and can even predict the future. The sole goal that this hostile being wants to fulfill is to destroy all life for the universe. For this reason, the Foundation is currently working on methods of neutralizing SCP-1548 before it destroys the Earth. Number 6. SCP-1193 Buried Giant, 44 miles. If there's an SCP that takes weird and bizarre to a whole nother level, this is just the one you need to focus your attention towards. I mean, the whole point of the Buried Giant is supposed to be weird and not make sense at all whatsoever. SCP-1193 is a long arm, and it makes telephone calls. But how long? Well, initially the arm was thought to extend into the drainage pipe to a depth of 35 meters. However, further endoscopic examination revealed that the arm extends to at least 71 kilometers in depth. I won't even get into the other details because even this much is going to be a challenge to process. Number 5. SCP-2317-K Dread Devourer, over 124 miles. Feast your eyes upon the Devourer of Worlds, an ancient entity that could possibly end all of existence if not contained by a series of massive, irreplaceable chains keeping it tied down. However, the chain's durability continues decreasing by the minute, and it's projected that the beast will escape into our dimension within the next 30 years. After all, this SCP is probably the most dangerous out there, being literally classified as Code Nightmare Regent Red, according to the wiki. Number 4. SCP-3000 Anantashisha, 373 to 559 miles. And only the eel remains. SCP-3000, or the eel, is another monster that appears in the SCP mythos, but this one's special. That's because Anantashisha is implied to be one of the old gods. As you can see, this monstrous entity is actually an immensely massive, aquatic, serpentine entity that strongly resembles a giant moray eel. Being one of the old gods, SCP-3000 appears to have psychic abilities. Number 3. SCP-2362-1, 559 miles. Up next is an enormous object consisting of a bell-shaped mass with 13 trailing appendages and generally resembling a jellyfish of the genus Pelagia. Well, that's basically what this skip is. This SCP also radiates blue light and has no visible surface features. So that was the first entry into the top 3. Any idea what the other 2 are all about? Let's find out. Number 2. SCP-169 Leviathan, 1,242.7 miles to 4,971 miles. Behold, the Leviathan, which takes the second spot in our list today, and very rightly so, because it's easily one of the largest and most threatening SCPs from the SCP Foundation. The threatening part is a bonus, and the ginormous marine arthropod is thought to have existed since the Precambrian era. So yeah, it's pretty ancient too. Number 1. SCP-1795 The Star, 31,068 miles. So, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let me introduce you to SCP-1795, which is, quite frankly, one of the largest life forms ever discovered by the SCP Foundation. Most of these insane life forms are at least millions of years old, which can create planets and also a hive mind of spider-like creatures capable of terraforming a planet, can manipulate gravity, heat, matter, and magnetism. Also, despite outwardly appearing to be composed of some kind of biological material, the actual nature of the material is proven impossible to identify. Moreover, it's unknown if SCP-1795 is sapient, but they're capable of highly complex tasks associating with creating a planet from scratch, though it's unknown whether they're aware of, control, or self-regulate these actions, or if they operate on little more than animalistic instinct. And now, finally, for the bonus. SCP-3200, which at 300 million light-years is by far the largest so far existence, SCP-3200 is a region of space located at approximately right ascension 14 hours, 50 minutes, and declination 46 degrees, commonly known as the Boots Void by civilian servants. At present, the exact properties of SCP-3200 are unknown, as most research into the anomaly was conducted by the now-defunct Peregrine Expedition Program. Now, the reason we didn't include this one in the list is because of it only being a location. And so, with that, we've come to the end of this video. We hope that you enjoyed it, and we really thank you for watching. Now, if you want to keep watching more videos like these, do consider hitting that subscribe button and smash the like button as well. You're watching Factholic, and we'll see you in the next one.